Imagine standing in your kitchen at 6:14 in the morning. Outside, the Seattle rain hammers against the glass. You're watching your husband of 3 months get dressed for work. You know everything about him. You know he sleeps on his back, you know he hates the color yellow, and you know without a shadow of a doubt that he is left-handed. But as you watch him button the cuff of his charcoal suit, your stomach drops. He's using his right hand. The movement is nimble, dexterous, practiced. You hand him his double espresso, black, 2 sugars. He takes a sip and grimaces. "Can I get some milk in this? My stomach is killing me." The room goes silent. Your husband has been severely lactose intolerant for a decade. You tell yourself it's just stress. You don't realize that the man in your kitchen isn't your husband. It's the monster who buried him. This is not fiction. This happened to Elena Vance on November 14th, 2025 in Seattle. But the nightmare started 3 months earlier, on the side of a mountain in Switzerland. Welcome back to Deadly Obsessions. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button. Today's story is a brutal reminder that sometimes the person you marry isn't the person who comes home. Elena, 29, architect, and Julian, 31, venture capitalist, were Seattle's golden couple. They married in August 2025. They spent their honeymoon in Zermatt, Switzerland, paradise, until the last day. Julian went for a final solo ski run. He was an expert on the slopes, but he didn't come back for lunch. He didn't come back for dinner. He returned to the lodge at 9 p.m., limping, a bloody bandage on his forehead. He claimed he fell and hit his head. Was unconscious in the snow for an hour. The doctor called it a mild concussion. Elena was just relieved. She didn't notice that his eyes looked different. They were flat, like a shark's. The next morning, Julian told Elena he'd received a call from the local police. He said his estranged twin brother, Caleb, had been found in a hostel in Geneva, overdosed and critical. "I can't leave him there to die," he told her, gripping her hand. "I'm chartering a medical transport to fly him back to Seattle. I'll get him into a clinic there." Elena was floored by his compassion. She watched from the tarmac as paramedics loaded an unconscious figure onto a private medical jet. She thought she was looking at a stranger. She didn't realize she was watching her husband being shipped home in a chemically induced coma. Back in Seattle, Julian changed. He snapped at Elena for small things. He forgot their inside jokes. He told her Caleb was safely in a facility downtown but refused to let her visit. But the biggest warning sign came from Barnaby, their golden retriever. Barnaby used to worship Julian. Now, whenever Julian entered the room, Barnaby growled. Animals know when a predator is in the house. Elena brought up the changes. "You seem different since the accident." Julian laughed, a hollow performance. "It was a concussion, Elena. My brain is rebooting. Stop analyzing me." This is called perspecticide, a darker form of gaslighting. It's the active destruction of your capacity to know what you know. Elena knew Julian had a brother, Caleb, an identical twin. The family black sheep with a history of violence, estranged for 6 years. Elena started testing him. "Remember when we got lost in Tokyo? The sushi was great," he replied. They had never been to Tokyo. October 25th, Elena checked a leak under the guest toilet's tank. Her hand brushed cold plastic, a burner phone, taped to the porcelain. She turned it on. One incoming text. "Is it done yet? The waiting is boring." She put it back, hands shaking. That night, she watched Julian brush his teeth, right-handed. "I thought you were left-handed," she whispered. He didn't stop. He met her gaze in the mirror, dead eyes. "I've been ambidextrous for years, Elena. You never pay attention." She wasn't crazy. She was in danger. 1 week later at 3 a.m., Elena woke to a rhythmic, muffled thumping vibrating through the floorboards. She looked over. The man she now knew was an intruder was gone. She followed the sound down to the wine cellar. Behind a custom-built rack of vintage reds, she noticed a faint glimmer of light reflecting off a ventilation grate that shouldn't have been there. She pushed the heavy oak rack aside, revealing a heavy steel door with a rubber seal, a hermetically sealed panic room installed by the previous owner. Soundproof, airtight. It was padlocked from the outside. Elena grabbed a crowbar from the garage. She slammed the tool against the lock until it snapped. When the door swung open, the stench hit her first. Sweat, bleach, and unwashed skin. Inside, huddled on a stained mattress, was the real Julian. He was emaciated, his beard matted. A jagged, infected gash ran across his hairline. It wasn't from a ski accident. It was the blow Caleb had used to knock him unconscious on the mountain. He had been trapped in total darkness for nearly 3 months. She lunged to help him, but Julian pushed her back, his voice a cracked whisper. "He's not in Portland, Elena. He'd never left. He's watching the house." The cellar lights flickered and died. Heavy footsteps echoed on the stone stairs. A flashlight beam cut through the dark, illuminating Caleb. He wore a simple black hoodie, holding a suppressed Glock 19. "I treated you better than he ever did," Caleb said. "I gave you the attention he was too busy for. I stepped into his life and fixed it. Why couldn't you just let the lights stay off?" This is the peak of duping delight. Caleb was addicted to the thrill of the deception. Caleb raised the weapon, but the real Julian lunged from the floor. The two identical men crashed into the wine racks. It was a horrific scene of mirrors. Two identical faces, one starving and one thriving, clawing at each other's throats. The gun skittered across the wet floor. Elena dove for it. She aimed at the pair, her finger trembling on the trigger. "Stop!" she screamed. Both men froze, looking at her with the same hazel eyes, both shouting, "Elena, it's me! Shoot him!" She looked at their hands. The man on top was pinning the other down with his right hand. The man on the bottom was reaching up with his left. Elena fired twice into the right-handed man's shoulder. Caleb collapsed. Police arrived 10 minutes later. Caleb Vance was arrested for kidnapping, identity theft, and attempted murder. He was sentenced to life without parole, but for Elena and Julian, there was no happily ever after. They divorced 6 months later. Elena moved 2,000 miles away and changed her name. She still checks her partner's dominant hand every morning. She still wakes up at 3 a.m. listening for sounds under the floor. Because when you marry a monster's twin, you never truly know who is standing in the dark. Hit like, comment. Would you know your partner's touch if it was replaced by a perfect copy? This is Deadly Obsessions. Stay safe, stay suspicious.